Hello and welcome to Politically Incorrect Knitters. My name is Ann Pinkava, joined as always by the lovely Deplorable Knitter.
Hi everybody, thanks for joining us today.
And this episode is sponsored by Chicken Lady Fiber Arts. You can use our promo code PIK January 20. It's only good for the month of January, so check that out soon, as we are getting to the end of the month. And for 20% off, it is again PIK January 20. And you can check out her newsletter that everyone who subscribes gets previews to her new colorways. And she has a new Misheard Lyrics colorway coming out. It is, not going to spoil what it is, but it's a Bruce Springsteen song, and it's the most beautiful wine colors. That there's a lot of rich purples and some kind of pinkish tones in there. It's very pretty.
Yes, it is very pretty. And if you wanted a glimpse of what she's releasing before she does, make sure you sign up for her newsletter at chickenladyfiberarts.com to get on there and get your news. And check out the latest Bruce Springsteen colorway. So this week, Ann, do you want to show us what you've been working on? I heard there's a big project coming.
Sure. First of all, that I'm still working on the Extended Comfort Fade cardigan. I don't have a collar on it yet. Part of it is that there's collar shaping to it. So I'm kind of dreading having to pick up all of the stitches, and because I made it longer than it's supposed to be, that the count won't be right already for going all the way around for the collar, and then I'll have to readjust things. But it is very pretty. It's very soft. I think I showed it last time, but whatever.
It is very pretty. Are the sleeves done now? Because last week the sleeves were pinned up and having issues.
Yes, the sleeves, well, one sleeve is done, and the other one, I just have to bind off.
Cool.
So, yeah, they're nice. There's that. I got a lovely skein of yarn in the mail from Tabitha of Murder Knits that she sent me this Driftwood Farms. It's very lovely and soft, but, here. Yes, it's extremely pretty, but and her daughter sent along a picture of her and Molly together because she loves Molly, and
and Molly is Ann's dog, in case anybody doesn't know that. So
yes,
Murder Knit's daughter wants to take Ann's dog.
No, she's gonna straight up Shanghai my dog one of these days, and I might have to let her because she's so cute. But anyway, so that was very kind. Thank you, Tabitha. But speaking of Tabitha, less kind of her is that she posted this picture of, it's called the Quinn's Quilt, and by Marin Melchior. I don't know. I'm sorry. I should have figured out how her name's pronounced beforehand. But it is absolutely stunning, and takes like 10 colors, and I was sitting there like, no, that's too much. I'm like, no, I want this. This is really cool. Right. No, and then I actually asked my brother to print it out for me because our printer at home has some issues, and then he hands it back to me. It's black and white, and I'm like, okay, I'll make this work. But yeah, it is so cool, and like I've been gathering like every bit of yarn that I've had, every purple and blue and green, and just like piles of yarn. I'm like, no, I'm not going to need to buy anything. This is going to be great. Except later when I find out that I've run out of some color because I only use bits and bobs and I have to buy something. So
yeah, but at least it's going to be an overall stash busting kind of project where you can use what you have. And then if you need to supplement, it's not so bad.
Yeah, and I mean, part of like, oh, well, it's a quilt. Well, quilts, I know there's many very professional quilters who have everything nice and in order, but there's also a lot of quilts where it's like I'm just using old clothes that I have.
Exactly.
So
that's cool. It's exciting.
Yeah, I am excited. But Amy from Two Sisters and Some Yarn is also doing it too. But I think she posted a thing on Instagram where she like bought all of her skeins ahead of time, and she was complaining a little bit that she started it. I'm like, and she said, "Oh, this is so needlessly complicated." And I went, "Oh, well, okay, that's interesting." And then I started it, and I'm like, "This is so needlessly complicated." She was right the whole time.
I thought you were going to be like, oh, it's needlessly complicated. I get this.
I know. I'm like, oh well. I mean, before she started, she says, oh well, I'm not very familiar with Intarsia. I'm like, oh, Intarsia. I'm like, no, just making this block is weird. This is like, okay, new concept. We're gonna get there. But it's like odd slip stitches on the side of your work, and I'm like, I don't understand, but whatever.
We're gonna get there. Together once you get going through it. It'll probably there's a reason for the slip stitches, or I have no idea.
One day it will all make sense. It's not today, but I just need to take a good hard look at the pattern, actually read it through, not just jump in, and I'm sure it will all work out great.
Well, that's cool. So yeah. Is that what you had this week?
That is pretty much what I had this week. I'm working on the sweater, and yeah, gathering stuff. I have the other cabled sweater too, but that hasn't moved very far.
Okay, cool. Well, I don't have any knitting. I know that last week I said that my heart season pattern was going to be out, and I was telling Anne before we got going officially, I've been having trouble with my formatting, like enough trouble that I wanted to throw my computer through the window. So once I get the formatting worked out, that pattern will be up and ready for you. I have no idea what is going on. And and I try to put the words into a column, and there's one letter in each line going down the side. And I'm like, I don't, it was a new document. Why? I don't know. Anyway, as you can tell, it's been an issue. But I haven't been knitting this week. I did get some yarn, which I feel very inspired about. It's from Yarn Cafe Creations. This one is called Blueberry Muffin, and it's super pretty. And then this is a blue teal. It's got blues and greens and purples in it. And when they came in the mail, I really, really wanted to knit them, but I can't until I get the patterns out to you. So because I'm really interested in knitting these, that should happen very quickly. And then another exciting thing that happened this week is that I got my student list for my classes that I'm teaching at co-op. And so I'm teaching an amigurumi class with another parent, and we have 9 students in that, but that class is almost completely planned. We know what patterns we're using. There was a prerequisite for the students that they needed to at least be familiar with like a chain and a single crochet, so that as we're teaching them how to make the dolls, that they have a basic knowledge, because it'd be too hard to teach them how to crochet and then teach them how to like count and circle, and like there's a lot to amigurumi. So I have to email those parents. Sorry.
Great. And part of that too is, I mean, if before the class you sit down with a YouTube video or something else, get the basics in, and like learn the basics on your own time, come in, we can figure it out.
Yeah, well, that's actually why I need to email the parents, because I'm going to send a couple links, like make sure they can chain, make sure they can single crochet, that kind of refresher. And because we've done it so that all of our projects use one like big red heart super saver. I did mine in like a striped yarn. And so I'm going to ask them what colors their kids want, because this is the yarn you're going to use for the semester. So you better enjoy it.
Right.
So, but that's going on. And then my other class, and this is something I'd actually like some feedback on. I got this book from the library. It's Learn How to Knit with 50 Squares. My other class is Knitting 101. We're going to learn how to cast on, bind off, knit stitch, purl stitch. And the goal is to come out of the class with at least 6 blocks, maybe 8, depending on how it goes. I think I'm going to plan 6, and then if they're doing really well, we'll do more, but I'm not going to be like, but because for this class, I'm going to have to do tutorials. I'm going to have to like probably with pictures or videos. Here's how you cast on, here's how you do this, here's how you do that. So if that's something that our viewers who maybe don't knit and have wanted to learn, if that's something you're interested in, let me know, because I'm thinking about adding it, putting it out like an ebook, since I'm going to put all the effort into making all the resources for my class. Just, I'd like to hear what you guys think. So that's my other class. I'm getting ready for that. That one's a little bit more in depth, but that's okay. And then I'm on an amigurumi kick. This happens to me sometimes. I don't know what happens, and then all of a sudden, I'm making the characters of Encanto.
That's adorable.
So this is Dolores from Encanto. If you've seen it, she's the one who can hear everything. So, and then I was talking to the designer because there's a teeny tiny minor error in this pattern. I said, hey, just so you know, it's like a typo, fix it.
Right.
And so she said, hey, do you want to test for me? And I'm like, sure, why not? So I just finished Bruno.
Aww.
I think I did something wrong with his arms, honestly, though, because no, they're as long as Dolores is. I think it's just the way the poncho is. I need to maybe do something to the poncho. It's a little stiff.
Right.
But, yeah, so this is Bruno from Encanto. My kids were dying. I just finished him before the podcast, and they wanted him, and I'm like, I'm taking him. I got to show him off. But this designer is 4th Street Yarns, and she is on Etsy. I'm going to put her link in the description, because she's got some, if you're interested, like Encanto is the big thing. Anne, have you heard of it?
I have. I saw it, actually.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. So the whole time I'm making Bruno, I'm singing that darn song. We don't talk about Bruno. But yeah, and she's going to have more characters. She's got Mirabelle, that's the main character. But my kids are obsessed with the movie. Like, we're in the car and they're like, hey, can we listen to the music? And I'm like, fine. And then the songs are actually pretty good, so that I'm singing them all day long for my whole life. And anyway, so I got to do some
Frozen all over again. Dang it.
Yeah, except that now Frozen had really good songs too. Yeah, I like Disney movies. I always have, so I don't mind. And I know that they're controversial and whatever, but my kids really like them, and they're only going to enjoy them for probably another couple of years. So I don't know. It's not a hill I want to die on, as terrible as that may sound. I don't know. There's a lot of things that we don't do anymore because of government or not agreeing with people or whatever. And, we may never go to actually see Disney, but I'm going to let them listen to the stuff. Like, it's a couple bucks a month, so I don't know. But listen to this, right? I was watching a movie last night. It was kind of lame. It was a Netflix movie, but it was like a Hallmark movie. And it was the royal treatment. So this chick cuts this royal guy's hair. He needs a stylist for his wedding. She goes to whatever the country is. It's a very predictable, obviously he's going to fall in love with her.
Right.
But we get into it, and like, she's like, oh, you've lived on this estate your whole life and you don't know how many gardeners you have, and like, really like, oh, you're so classist against the people working for you. And like, there were these tones all throughout. And then it was just so super woke, the whole thing. And I'm watching it, and I got my 8-year-old is sitting there watching it too. And I'm like, this is how it happens. It comes in through media when you're almost not paying attention. And it's like, I noticed these things that the characters were saying that were very woke because I am attuned to that. But my 8-year-old, I'm sitting there going, do they know that like some of this stuff isn't right or true, or I don't know. So if you're sick of all the woke nonsense, don't forget to check out Cody Schlegel's book, Odyssey Tale, because there's no agenda and you don't get halfway through it. Oh, I remember what made me so mad at the end. The butler guy, of course, was like, you should fall in love. You should marry for love, not money. And I left my partner, Richard, and I'm like, okay, it's fine that the guy is gay, but like, do we just have to like slip it in? Like, it doesn't matter to the character. He could have said, I left my love and I've always regretted it. We don't have to know who it is.
Mhm.
But no, they had to make a point to make it another man. And I'm just so sick of that, like, things being put in. Just little, you almost don't notice them. Like, if I had been crocheting and counting at that point in time, I probably wouldn't have even caught it. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like, it's one of those, like, so if you're getting sick of that, because I am sick of it, I know I talk about it every week, but I consume a lot of media, mostly books, but other things too. And it's old. So check out Cody Schlegel, Odyssey Tale. It's on Amazon. Next week, we're going to be having another giveaway. Anne's going to be in charge of that one. So stay tuned. We'll have a book for you. We'll have something else. So that's cool.
Yep, I'm just waiting for my book to come in the mail, and I'm really hoping that it wasn't on a train in California at some point, because I'm like, oh, that's taking a little while. Might
Yeah,
have
I feel
to.
like you ordered those like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Like, it's been a while.
Yeah, a couple
You should
weeks. So
probably double check that.
I should. I'm a little concerned, but however, we will get that figured out in time for a giveaway.
Yes. But yeah, so let me know about the ebook, How to Knit thing. I'm not sure how big of an audience there is for that, honestly. But I just figure I'm putting in a lot of effort to teach my kids in my class. So if it's something that would be useful, let me know. And now, Anne, where do you want to start in the world?
Oh, wow. So a lot going on this week. Let's see. I would like to start with Canada, with the massive trucker freedom convoy that is going across. Yesterday I heard numbers of about 50,000 trucks. Some people are now saying it's closer to 70,000.
Wow. I heard the 50,000 trucks, and I heard about 500,000 people are going to end up in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
And Anne and I have been trying to do a little bit more research for our podcast, a little bit more note taking, so that we can give you guys like accurate figures. So today I spent some time. I had to take my husband to the doctor while I was waiting. I could not find a single article that said something positive. Everything was biased towards like Trudeau. And I saw an article where he's like, oh, well, there's like 1 or 2,000 like rogue trucks, and it hasn't interfered with our trucker supply at all, and this and that and blah blah. And I'm like, I've seen the videos. I've seen how many people are coming out when they pass through their cities. I don't think you're correct. I can't imagine how that could be correct.
Yeah, that they're fringe groups or extremists, and I'm just like, what?
That's another thing that I've seen them pushing, Anne, is that it's a fringe group of white supremacists that has organized this, and I cannot find a single thing about that. Like, I spent a fair amount of time trying to find this information, and I couldn't find it anywhere. So I'd love to know.
Well, I know that there's a Freedom Convoy Instagram page. I'm not sure how long it'll still be there, but I mean, part of this fringe, horrible, racist group is that it was like they've been stopping at different places, and people have been making them meals. There's a GoFundMe going, which is over $6 million right now, but that is to pay for food and fuel and everything else. And they say that anything left over afterwards, they're going to give to veterans charity. So
sounds pretty racist to me.
Crazy. But it was that they had like how would you say, like an indigenous drum circle going, that people were chanting and singing and having this big thing at this truckers meet, like, oh, these terrible bigoted people listening there, enjoying the native music of Canada. Like, I can't believe they're doing this.
Yeah, no, the whole thing is just ridiculous. But you said that there's the Instagram page, the Freedom Convoy, and I've gotten my information from that. But this morning when I was looking, I was specifically looking for an article from a separate news source, because I was trying to see what people are saying about it. And like I said, when I looked for anything that wasn't being put out by the truckers themselves, it was all very like, very fringe, small. It's not going to do anything. Trudeau says he's not going to do anything. Although, ironically, he is quarantining now. Did you hear that?
I did. It's like, oh, well, I was exposed. I tested negative, but goodbye.
I'm quarantining right when these people are going to show up in the Capitol.
That's right.
Nothing to see here, Anne. Not a thing.
Not a thing at all. People are protesting Prime Minister Blackface and his human rights abuses that are created through these vaccine mandates. And he's out of town. Sorry, guys. Gotta isolate.
The whole thing is just stupid, honestly. But,
no, I mean, absolutely good for Canada, because we've commented before that there have not been a lot of Canadian protests. And I mean, sometimes it takes a long time to get it together, but they are out there doing things.
With the way that they've organized this one, I want the US to take a page out of their book, because I can't see how they're going to be able to ignore them once they get to Ottawa. I just can't, with that many trucks. And
and especially since they're gaining momentum through liberal areas too.
Yeah, and I know all the articles I saw said that there weren't that many, but I've seen videos of the trucks. You cannot tell me that all those videos are of the same trucks, and they're time lapse, and they are just as far as the eye can see. So
yeah, I heard a convoy up to 100 kilometers. I'm not sure. Again, I think it's one of those things where it's very difficult to judge. But I know there was a certain area where the roads were a little rougher, that they, instead of having one convoy, that they split it up into 3 so they could get through this area kind of faster. And they do have not a manifesto, but like a statement of belief on their website. And they're, very clearly like, hey, we are anti-mandate, and especially from trucks passing over the American border, that's part of the mandate too, that you must be vaccinated, but also that truckers must be vaccinated coming through America, which is a huge supply chain back and forth. Because the America-Canada border until recently was the largest undefended frontier, like the most casual border to get through. America and our pals Canada, you could hop up to Canada and have lunch and come back down, and it was a-okay. And for the sudden,
it really is. It was like that. I mean, I live a few hours from Niagara Falls. So what happens when we turn 19 here? We all go to Canada because that's legal to drink there.
Right.
And so, it's not a thing at all in this area to just, go get a cheap hotel with a bunch of people for a night, go up, party, come home. It was a thing we used to do. And even when we took my kids to Niagara Falls, they were like, oh, hey, can we go to Canada? I said, well, not right now, but yeah, you used to be able to just, I think there was a SeaWorld there that I went to like all the time with my youth group. Like it wasn't that big of a deal. And now it's this nasty, massive, sorry, tangent.
No, it's true. And yeah, so part of it, that many of the truckers are saying like, hey, many of us are vaccinated, but we are against the mandate. We're against encroaching freedoms. We're against having the same medical procedure prescribed to everybody, regardless of, what their medical background is. And well, like everything, they're being smeared, but they have a lot of support throughout Canada. I love seeing videos too of people who like they're not truckers, but they're standing there and they're holding a sign and they're waving as the trucks go by. I even saw that there was some Mennonites that joined the convoy, that they had buggies and they just went through too with flags flying. So yeah,
I didn't see that part. That's cool. But piggybacking off of that thing you said about, hey, we're against this medical thing for everybody, making it a criteria for everybody. You know where I'm going?
Perhaps.
I'm going to Boston, where a gentleman who is 31 years old got taken off of the heart transplant list because he would not get a vaccine. He is against the vaccine, but he also talked to the doctors about it, saying, my heart is in such bad shape. What happens if I have a reaction that we know can happen to this vaccine? And they said, well, it can make it worse. But because the Massachusetts health system has said that they have to have vaccines for anything, he was taken off of the list. He is a 31-year-old man with 2 kids and a third on the way. And yep, he is not allowed to get a heart, even though he's a prime candidate, because he won't get the shot.
Right. And especially since all of the random young men with heart issues that have been collapsing, especially in the sports world, which is really weird. That's like, okay, myocarditis is a real, like, it is a real health issue that is coming from this. Are anyone going to take that into consideration, especially for young people who are less likely to have a severe issue of COVID? Just going to out and say that.
I actually have a friend who got a heart transplant in November. I think he got it in November. And he went into the hospital without COVID, and he came home. No, not he came home with COVID. He went into the hospital. He had no COVID. He tested negative. He got COVID like 3 times while he was in the hospital. So explain to me what all of these rules are doing anyway. If the dude who is in the hospital for heart failure getting a transplant is getting COVID anyway, the whole having a vaccine doesn't protect anybody from it. You know, so yeah. But there's what happens when there's no medical freedom, which is why these truckers and what they're doing is so important.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I mean, so often too, we've seen the combination of medical freedom and freedom of speech, that I have the freedom to do what I like with my body, but also I have the freedom to say why or not say why, depending. It's like, I do not have to disclose my medical information, but I also have total freedom to tell you why I may decline something if I so desire. That I can say, hey, I have concerns and this is why I'm not doing a thing. So on both sides of that is being attacked. That, you know, A, you have to disclose a medical status of procedure at any given time. And B, if you say that you might have a problem with a medical procedure and you might have reasons that you have concerns that you may be against it, why you wouldn't have that for you, that also has to be shut up. You know, speak when we say and shut up the rest of the time.
Yeah, well, it goes back to my body, my choice, except that when we don't agree with you.
Right.
And then it's do what I say.
Silence is violence. Your words are violence. And you're like, which one?
Seriously. So since we're on the kind of medical freedom thing, in New York, there was a freaking uproar on Monday night because a New York State Supreme Court justice, I think it was the Supreme Court, Nassau County Supreme Court, it was a court in New York that said that Hochul's mask mandate was unconstitutional. And they said it was not in effect. And so I'm in some freedom groups in New York because that's, you know, you gotta find the people who agree with you. And people were like, I'm not sending my kids to school with a mask, this and that, and blah, blah. And like within an hour of this ruling coming out and people talking about it, the state education department put out like a blanket statement. Most school districts were distributing it saying, there's going to be a stay, your kids have to wear masks, blah, blah, blah. The stay didn't come until Tuesday. So technically all day Tuesday, these schools were forcing the kids to wear masks for actually no reason. Right. But it's gone back now to where they have to wear the masks again. But I think it's what we needed. I think it's what we needed in New York, because now people are really starting to, there's a lot of parents who didn't want their kids to wear masks, but it's kind of like, oh, well, what do we do? Well, now we've been in this position where the legal system said it was not acceptable, and the school and the health departments tried to supersede the New York State court,
Right.
which they don't have power over it. And people are starting to kind of, it in this freedom group especially, it was like an eye-opening moment for a lot of these parents. And now some of them are still like, if you don't want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Don't send it to them, send them to school. Don't touch my kid. And now, like, there's issues of, like, kids are being segregated if they're not wearing masks. And
Right.
so it's turning into a bigger thing. And I think that that's what we need. Yeah. Hochul's, she put out this authoritarian mandate, and it was shot down by the Supreme Court because the emergency powers that Cuomo used were stripped. They were curbed after, everybody found out what a jerk he was being with his powers. So,
not to mention the dead grandmas.
Well, yeah, exactly. The dead grandmas and whatever. But according to the court, Hochul has no authority to put out a mask mandate, which is why a lot of people like myself stopped wearing masks this time around, because there wasn't even an executive emergency order thing. It was just her saying wear masks. Speaking of which, I have contacted the governor's office asking for a copy of the mask mandate from December 13th, and I have not been able to get a response. I will continue trying, but if she did it, I want to know what it is. Here it is. It's January 27th, which means it's been 6 weeks since she issued that order, and I can't find it. Doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, so now the stay is in place in New York until February 1st, which is when she was going to decide whether or not she was going to repeal the mask mandate anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Okay. I mean, I know that you have government orders until like a certain time period, but the whole thing where it's like, yes, and we will sit at the door of the temple to see if the white smoke goes up and if we're free again, that it's sort of, that you're waiting on their pleasure for things that should never have been in their power to begin with.
Yeah, no, I'm very against mask mandates. The only place that I actually don't mind wearing one is when I have to go into a hospital or a doctor's office, because I don't know about any of you guys, but I've been in doctor's offices where I was like skeeved out and I didn't want to touch anything. And so you don't know what kind of crud people have in those places. So that's the only place where I'm still like, all right, you want me to wear a mask? I'm kind of okay with that. But other than that, I just, speaking of states trying to flex their muscles, Wisconsin, the legislature in Wisconsin voted to decertify their electoral votes for Joe Biden. It's not something I've heard a lot about. I didn't get a chance to really look into it before now, but from what I've read, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to get through the state Senate, and it has to go through a committee of some sort because of what it is. And there's a lot of parts to it, but I guess even though it's not necessarily going to go anywhere, at least the state is saying, hey, something's wrong. We don't want our votes to be for him anymore. Mm-hmm. And
well, yeah, it's one of those things too of, all right, will the election be looked at close enough so that Biden is kicked out of office? Not super likely. But is this laying down a groundwork to make sure that we actually have safe and secure elections, for looking at it in the future and going, hey, this is unacceptable. There's procedural bad stuff. There was laws that were passed last minute without the correct procedures going through, that there was iffiness with mail-in ballots going on, that they weren't, checked well. They weren't. So if we have all of these steps and we look at it in future, it's difficult to go back and change an event back here, but you can go to future and say like, hey, we are saying now that this back here wasn't right. So in future, as we move forward, that things can get better.
Exactly.
That's sort of the, the sort of an old Charles Dickens line, the wheels of the law, they grind slowly and grind a lot of people into dust. But, that change is slow, but you can get there. But you can, actually change things by.
And that's what I took away from this. Like, yeah, they're not actually going to probably take their votes away. Like, the odds of that are very, very slim. What would happen if they did? Like, I don't even know if anybody knows what would happen if that did. But the fact that they're saying it is a big deal. Yeah. Similar to like the audit in Arizona. I had hoped more would come from that audit, but at least it showed that there were truly discrepancies in different things. So
the first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem.
Exactly. And so speaking of the election and everything, so there's a Supreme Court justice that honestly, just before Anna and I got on, I watched him like give his resignation speech with Joe Biden. And he's been on what's his name? Breyer?
I think Breyer.
Yeah. So he's been on the court for 40 years. He was a senator. He was a House member. He was a appellate judge. He became a justice. And he's stepping down. Joe Biden, he said that by the end of February, he is going to have a new nominee. He's going to take a lot of time and look at all their cases thoroughly and whatever. So I don't know how he's going to do that in the next 5 weeks. February is a short month.
Going to be really, really thorough about it.
He's going to be super thorough, though. He's going to check everything, but he can guarantee it is going to be a Black woman, which I'm not against a Black woman being on it, but how can you say that before you go through the people's records? How can you say that before you've looked at your choices? And, well, number one, I think he already knows who it's going to be. But number two, that's a strange statement to make when you're saying, oh, I'm going to do all this stuff, but it's going to be a Black woman.
Yeah, I'm going to do the best person for the job, and the best person for the job is definitely someone's immutable characteristics. That your outward appearance makes you the best judge.
Exactly. But this is, and I don't believe that this is true, but it is something I heard, and it's a conspiracy theory, and I want your take on it, okay? So, So I heard that he is going to nominate Kamala to be on the court.
Because after all, the last time he said that I don't know who this is going to be, but it's going to be a Black woman, he put in Kamala Harris, who again, look at her qualifications. Because she's been doing such an awesome job.
She hasn't done shit. She's done an awesome job of cackling and like mocking people, but other than that, I don't know a single thing she's actually done.
Well, and not to mention, it's like, yes, Kamala Harris with all of her background in law. That's right. Maximum sentences for drug offenders. Throw them in prison and have them do labor for you. That is awesome. What a system. Okay. She's really, really breaking those cycles. And by breaking those cycles, some people have compared putting people into prison for stupid reasons and then having them do work to slavery, something like her Jamaican ancestor did. I don't know. I don't want to draw those lines too closely, but it has been mentioned before.
It has, but that's not the whole conspiracy theory thing, okay? So ready. So they're saying, and I keep laughing because it's so absurd that it's probably what's going to happen, honestly. Okay. So according to this theory, she's going to be the next justice. So then the VP is going to be empty. And they're going to appoint Hillary. which I don't know how they get a new VP, but this is the theory I heard. So don't all come at me saying this is not how it works, okay? So that Hillary can be in the spot so that when they finally say that Joe is old and senile, that Hillary is president. This is what I wanted to tell you beforehand, but I wanted your real reaction too.
Yeah, because, you know, the most unqualified, horrible, cackling people are the ones that you want to surround yourself with. It's like,
Obviously.
I just want to imagine the White House dinner party if you're sitting there at a table with Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, who don't like each other, Hillary Clinton, a barrel of laughs, and Nancy Pelosi with her mile-high eyebrows, and they're all hanging out, and somebody says a joke. Like, just the noise. Like, nightmares.
Yeah.
And then Jen Psaki can come around with the cocktails later, and it'll just be so much fun. But
you know, I am not a fan of Jen Psaki, but I was watching her do a press conference, and I gotta say, she has done an okay job in probably the worst position that a person could be in. I mean, can you imagine having to make excuses for Joe all day long?
Well, that's not easy, though. The way that she lies and deflects like a champ.
Well, yeah, she's very good at what she does, but I'm just saying, you know, I can't imagine having to go up knowing that Joe's probably taking a nap and try to tell people what he's actually doing. Oh, well, you know, he's got a light schedule today because we're having some internal meetings. And I saw her saying that the other day, and I was like, he's taking a nap. And Obama is probably pulling the strings, because she did slip up and say, oh, I've loved working for President Biden. That really truly happened. So
wow.
Whatever. Anyway.
See, I thought you were going to say with the cocktails comment, her thing with like, oh, well, people are stressed about the economy, like have a margarita.
You know what? I know that remark was somewhat callous, but dude, I've been there on a Friday night, and I bet you that's really how she felt. And I give her props for that. Freaking, yeah, go have a freaking cocktail and deal with this tomorrow, because it'll still be there.
Right. I mean,
not props, but you know what I mean. I
right.
get that sentiment for sure.
These are not the solutions that we want from our government, though it may be the solutions we use.
No. And my saying things that aren't completely negative about her does not mean I like her. It just means that it's got to be a suck job for sure.
Well, you know, just about as just like still, has anyone heard from Fang Fang lately? Not that I sympathize, but thoughts and prayers for whatever is she even around anymore? Like,
I just can't imagine working for a person who in the past week has gotten caught 3 times, I think, on a hot mic saying crap about reporters and or their questions. In fact, the most awful thing he did was call Peter Doocy from Fox News a stupid SOB.
right.
I can't imagine having to like stand up for that guy.
Right.
And
yeah, and then with that, because I was watching the clip, he begins with saying like, oh, like kind of admitting that, oh, well, inflation's a bad thing. Really? Yeah, it's a bad thing, Joe. But also he's sitting in front of a mic at the podium still. The reporters are kind of shuffling. It's like, you don't know. And then there's nobody even close to him. So who is he talking to if he's just sort of saying this? Like, it's not as if he's standing next to somebody and he's like, Peter Doocy. Like, well, he's sort of crazy man talking to himself.
Right. But what I heard,
unless he's talking to Earpiece Guy, but
I mean, he could be talking to Earpiece Guy, but what seems kind of likely to me, and this is another conspiracy theory, so just put on your tinfoil hat with me for a minute. You know, a lot of people who have dementia and or Alzheimer's get like that when they don't know the answer or when they feel cornered. They lash out. And we have seen him lashing out a lot lately.
That is true. That is true. I mean, in the past, his dog face pony soldier line. You're like, where did that come from?
But I mean, it's been 3 or 4 times in a week, and so
Yeah, it's getting worse.
Maybe there's something to that thought. That's all.
Yeah.
But
I have a story, which isn't kind of a widely published story, but I thought it was definitely interesting. That out of Finland, and I may get this name wrong. It's Pavi Rasanen. Anyways, that she is a former minister of the interior in Finland. So, fairly high official. And she is now in court for publishing a picture of the first chapter of Romans. She's up for a hate crime charge, 3 different counts for going against the equality and dignity of homosexuals in Finland. And the first chapter of Romans, Paul is talking about different sins, and one of them is homosexuality. And she posted this after the Lutheran Church in Finland had something about their support for a pride parade. And she posted this in response, saying that that's against basic doctrine, that
right.
According to the Bible, that's a sexual sin like adultery and everything else, and you don't support that. And as a church, you have a stand against that. So she took a picture of her Bible of Romans, and police came knocking to her door, and that is in court this week
for posting verbatim what the Bible says.
Right.
It's a hate crime.
Right. And she was talking about it too. She was on Mark Stein's GB News show this past Monday, and she was talking about it, and she was very forthright about it, that she said that if her court case goes poorly, that means that the Bible itself is on trial here. It's not just her quoting it. It's saying that you cannot quote scriptures, you can't post scriptures, you can't. It's truly the Bible on trial. And even so, hearing her talk about it, that she was very much saying, like, no, Christians still need to go out there and talk about what they believe. You can't let this cow them. You can't let this slow you down. And it was also mentioned that other scriptures, just the Bible is on for this, that the Quran or anything else, nobody's brought that into question. And they're a bit more harsh. But that this is, like I said, this is you think of Finland and you like, oh yeah, Finland's fine, the freedom of religion, freedom of speech. And more and more you're having people brought into question specifically for the Christian faith.
That's disturbing, and it seems far away because Finland, I don't know about most people, but Finland's not a place I think of often. I mean, in my day-to-day life, there's not much happening over there that I'm aware of.
Right.
But this
it's great for the Finns, but
right, but this is really bad for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's gonna, if it goes poorly for her, like she said, it's gonna be bad for all of us, because they're gonna see it work in Finland, and they're already doing it in Canada.
Right.
I mean,
they're shutting down pastors in Canada. That the one pastor that they've arrested, 3 times now?
Mm-hmm. But the freedom of religion is seeping out kind of quickly in Canada, and I think I talked about it a couple weeks ago on our show. But the liberal arm of the Lutheran Church here was having drag queen sermons,
right.
And if we don't start saying something, it's not gonna be. This is bad. This is very bad.
And I mean, the church I go to is I go to a Baptist church, but it's funny because many of the people there, like my family too, but many of them are people who said, no, the Lutheran church, and I know that there's different sectors of the Lutheran church too, that there's wide groups there, but it was people who said, no, the Lutheran church is losing the plot here, that They're not.
Yeah. My guess is that you guys were the ELCA Lutheran Church, which is the one that's cray-cray. Like I accidentally went to, when I lived in the city, I went to one of those churches thinking, oh, it's a Lutheran church. I go to a Lutheran church. And I sat through the sermon and I'm like, this is not a Lutheran church.
Right. Well, I remember like bulletins, and it was children's Sunday school messages that John the Baptist was, telling you that you should go out and be a good environmentalist because he eats locusts. And I'm like, this is so ahead of its time, because look at what they're telling us to do now. And this was what, almost 20 years ago?
No, that's crazy. See, I'm a Lutheran, but I'm a Missouri Synod Lutheran, which is like my pastor is super conservative, and I really enjoy his sermons. And the people in my church, they know about my knit designing, and they're very supportive of me, and so it's a good thing. But a lot of churches are starting to lose sight of what's going on here. And I'm not saying that a church should ever exclude somebody based on lifestyle choices or whatever, because God loved everybody. Jesus ate dinner with the people that everybody hated, but that doesn't mean we have to condone it.
Right. And that's what that's what the lady said, Miss, again, I have to try her name, but my Finnish pronunciations, as if I would have Finnish pronunciations, but Miss Päivi Räsänen. But yeah, that's what she said too. She's like, look, I'm not against anybody. I'm not against anyone violating anyone else's human rights or us being unequal before the law. I'm just saying that biblically, this is, a standard, and that I'm not going to move this standard for, anything that's going on now.
Right. Man, that's awful. Sorry, I got nothing though. It's bad.
No,
that's
but
really, like, when you mentioned it, I didn't realize it was for actual taking a Bible verse and being like, here, this Bible verse says this.
Right.
That's crazy. I can't even wrap my brain around this.
I know. What's Scott Walker saying? I know his social media posts, he posts, pictures of his Bible all the time. But yeah, I think that's all the news that we have this week.
Yeah, I think that's so pray for our leaders and for the lady in Finland, and
it's
Godspeed.
I know. I mean, it's a lot going on at once, but I mean, like we have seen with the trucker story and other things, that originally you may be like, oh no, no one's doing anything about this, but slowly but surely stuff like this gains momentum.
That is true. But man, I really cannot wrap my head around that last story. I'm sorry. But hey, you know what though, guys? We still have some knit-alongs going on. There's the Two Sisters and Some Yarn Make-Along. There's the Unity KCAL that Cedar Hills Farm is putting out. And there is the Chicken Lady Fiber Arts Make-Along. So,
and we forgot to mention with Chicken Lady that she has a new yarn out for her banned book series. And it's called Snowy Day, and she has a little thing about it on why Snowy Day is a banned book. But it's white, but there's like these little flecks of pink in it. It's really, really pretty. So you can check it out. And also, again, our promo code is PIK January 20. And get 20% off your order, and check out her other stuff that she has going on.
Yeah. Get 20% off your order at chickenladyfiberarts.com, and then use the yarn to go make something for one of the beautiful knit-alongs, because we all need a little bit of unity and whatever going on, because things are kind of grim. So let's make something pretty together. And guys, don't forget to check us out on YouTube and Rumble. And we can be found on all the socials: YouTube, Vero, Facebook, Instagram, MeWe, Gab, Parler, Telegram. I don't know, all of them.
I'm on Getter. Getter's fun. I like Getter.
Getter. I haven't gotten on Getter yet. So
okay.
Yeah, so check us out. We're everywhere. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys again next week.
All right. We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.